What's up, you team of bad savages? My name is Tom, and today I'm gonna react to the most terrifying man of Vietnam War. And also, don't forget to like, subscribe, click the bell for notification, and you can become a sponsor of this channel by clicking the link below the channel and help the channel grow and support your favorite creator. Let's jump in, guys.
Vietnam, late 1960s. Hostile North Vietnamese troops pinned down a hatchet force of elite American MAC-V-SOG operators. They have the numbers and the high ground. Nevertheless, the Americans and their loyal indigenous montagnards do not back down. Staff Sergeant Jerry M. Shriver, also known as Mad Dog, dashes from cover to cover, pummeling the enemy with his unconventional arsenal of several pistols, revolvers.
Listen, guys, Vietnamese War was so scary because they had to fight in the jungle and they had to fight against partisans a lot, and that's why they were burning the villages down and there was massacres happening, and that war didn't bring anything good. There was so much pain and destruction in that war. Overall, wars don't bring, like, most of the time, you know, if it's only like a liberation war, but it's like not a war, it's liberation, right? But I mean, for those guys, I mean, you need to be a tough person after you went through Vietnamese War, that's for sure.
And a lethal sawed-off shotgun. Some men are wounded and are slowly hoisted up through the thick jungle canopy to a chopper. The enemy presses on, but Mad Dog does not flinch. He retaliates with all the ammunition at his disposal. The friendlies are lifted one by one until Mad Dog is left alone. He calls in for close air support several times. The enemy fire intensifies to the point that the radio offers Mad Dog Shriver assistance with a fresh unit of ground troops. He rejects the offers and replies, quote, No, I've got them right where I want them, surrounded from the inside. Jerry M. Shriver was born on September 24, 1941, in Defuniak Springs, Florida. Little is known about this man's life, except that he was destined to be an American hero, a decorated war veteran, and the embodiment of the actual fighting man. The soldier enamored with war and real brotherhood forged in the heat of battle. Shriver grew up with tales of veterans from World War II, those from the thousands of young men who enlisted to fight in the Pacific against the Empire of Japan and Europe, against the might.
In my opinion, Pacific Rim was the hardest battles went over there because they had to fight small islands, a lot of jungle, and crazy Japanese. Japanese were really crazy, and they were willing to, like, basically die. They were not afraid to die, you know, because there was even these famous Japanese banzai planes that they just crashed into the ships and blew up, man. So yeah,
the Third Reich's Wehrmacht. Inspired by his country's heroes, Shriver joined the United States military at a young age, joining the Army from California. The young man proved his worth as a soldier and attended airborne school, becoming a paratrooper of the legendary Screaming Eagles of the 101st Airborne Division. Shortly after, Shriver tested his skills with the Army Special Forces, going through rigorous training to attain the cherished Green Beret of a true commando. At the time of Shriver's training, the tensions of the Cold War between the West and the Soviet Union had led the United States to support the government of South Vietnam after France's defeat in 1954 at the hands of the communist Viet Minh guerrilla. The nation had embarked on a conflict unlike any other it had fought. From the late 1950s until 1975, the Army would fight to the bitter end against a relentless enemy committed to turning Vietnam into a communist state.
Also, not only they fought against Vietnamese, but they fought, in my opinion, against whole communist bloc, because there was Soviet Union helping them a lot. Not sure about China, but I won't be surprised, because the Cold War also meant these proxy wars in different parts of world, and it was all about the influence, right? Either communists gonna take it, or USA with the allies, right?
Despite the introduction of modern weaponry such as jet aircraft, helicopters, heavily armored tanks, surface-to-air missiles, or SAMs, guided missiles, and others, the Army desperately needed special operators trained to survive alone in the jungle and inflict heavy casualties on the enemy through unconventional warfare. Luckily for Staff Sergeant Jerry M. Shriver, he was one of them, and he wanted in. The thrill of the hunt had possessed him, and the territories of communist-infested Vietnam were about to become his hunting grounds. Jerry M. Shriver of the U.S. 5th Special Forces arrived in Vietnam in 1966. Tall and thin, with a narrow face, the operator had the personality of a man born for action.
The guy on the right looks like Stalin. Just saying.
Future Medal of Honor recipient Jim Fleming would later describe Jerry Shriver as, quote, the quintessential wartime loner, antisocial, possessed by what he was doing, the best teammate, always training, constantly training. Shriver was not amicable to those outside his unit. His cold eyes were always battle-ready. He was born for combat and spent his free time training, inspecting his weapons, and learning about the terrain and enemy he sought to destroy to free Vietnam from communism. The staff sergeant was strict with his men, not to establish authority, but to make them better soldiers, machines of war, survivors in the jungle, and hunters of the night. Jim Fleming would also say that, quote, Shriver convinced me that for the rest of my life, I would not go into a bar and cross someone I didn't know. The staff sergeant was a lone wolf, who often spent the nights at the NCO's club, drinking a case of beer for himself, waiting for his next mission.
Listen, it reminds me of the good old movie from 90s, Major Payne, it's called. And the main character of the movie, he was the loner also. And then he got sent to teach kids like in a like academy. Man, this is phenomenal movie. And I think that the guy is just like similar to that guy. Maybe they took this guy as a role model for that role. Who knows?
During his first deployment in 1966, Shriver joined the elite and highly secretive MAC-VSOG, or Military Assistance Command, Vietnam Studies and Observation Group. Only the best of the best joined the unit. Chosen men from the Army, Marines, Navy, Air Force, and CIA were part of this task force, created to tackle the most demanding missions. From 1966, and for almost 3.5 years, Shriver would keep extending his deployments as part of the battle frenzy that consumed him. He would spend over 1,000 days in Vietnam, getting to know its people, especially the Allied Montagnard forces. Shriver's exploits over the battlefield quickly earned him the nickname Mad Dog, and he truly lived up to it. Mad Dog's reputation grew after every mission. Shriver became addicted to the adrenaline of combat. He was at home in the jungles of Vietnam with the troops. Instead of catching a break after operations, he would sneak out and join other patrols that were bound to hunt down North Vietnamese or Viet Cong strongholds deep in the jungle.
Man, I mean, as I said, this is one of the reasons why the soldiers cannot live a normal life after they've been to war. First of all, there's a lot of psychical injuries, right? Like shell shock and etc. And also this adrenaline rush. This is such an adrenaline rush that I cannot even imagine. Like, I mean, jumping from parachutes is not even close, I guess, you know. And yeah, like this is the reason why.
It is said that Shriver once took leave to get rest and recuperation, or R&R, except this was not his goal. Instead, the restless American warrior traveled to the Plei Jurong Special Forces camp to join another special operations team to fight alongside them. Most missions that MAC-VSOG carried out were highly classified and remain so even now. But there's no doubt that Shriver saw some things beyond the familiar grunt. As the elite, MAC-VSOG operators employed a unique Tiger Stripes camouflage uniform used by the South Vietnamese. They also had access to special equipment, such as the Colt Commando carbines, state-of-the-art bows for stealth encounters, and a never-ending supply of the latest armament. Like most of the men from MAC-V, Shriver had a unique way of dressing up. When off-duty, the legend often exchanged his combat fatigues for a blue velvet smoking jacket and derby hat. Nevertheless, Shriver was always armed to the teeth. He knew there were communist infiltrators everywhere and never let his guard down, especially after gaining notoriety among the enemy due to his exploits.
Man, this guy is like a real-life Rambo, man. Armed to teeth, loner, you know, Vietnamese vet. I mean, these guys are born to go to war, these kind of people.
It was common for other operators to see Shriver armed with 4 to 6 pistols or revolvers on his person, all of different calibers, from the old reliable and powerful M1911 to the lethal Magnum. Shriver's kit for combat operations was also unconventional. He, like others in MACV, would often employ enemy AK-47s, RPKs, and other guns that were not standard issue. Shriver carried a sawed-off shotgun, suppressed World War II-era M3 grease gun, or 45 caliber M1A1 Thompson submachine gun. There is a unique account of Shriver's arsenal during his second tour in Vietnam, when he went to MACV-SOG's Command and Control North for a debrief about a mission near the DMZ. Captain Jim Storer recalled, quote, "He had pistols stuck everywhere on him. I mean, he had 5 or 6 38 caliber revolvers." The captain, bewildered about the sergeant's equipment, asked him, quote, "Sergeant Shriver, would you like a CAR-15 or M16 or something? You know the DMZ is not a real mellow area." Mad Dog grinned and laconically replied, quote, "No, those long guns will get you in trouble. And besides, if I need more than these, I got troubles anyhow." As time went by, the staff sergeant turned more eccentric. In 1968, the Vietnam veteran was forced by command for a mandatory rest period to the U.S. His teammate Larry White accompanied him to purchase a Marlin lever-action rifle chambered in the powerful .444 Marlin cartridge. Shriver
I just cannot imagine what this kind of person is doing in his rest time. I bet he's just sitting in the lonely room, like cleaning his gun over and over again, just like chipping away from his knife, like making his knife sharp all the time and thinking about the combat. I bet you guys that he's doing that.
Did not plan on using such a powerful cartridge to hunt down grizzly and polar bears. He was thinking of taking down another type of prey. Shriver eventually shipped the rifle to MACV-SOG headquarters and said he would use it to bust bunkers and instill fear in the heart of the enemy with the massive exit wounds caused by the .444 Marlin cartridge. As a member of MACV-SOG, Shriver was a platoon sergeant of the secret hatchet force units. These small units comprised 2 or 3 American MACV-SOG members and 20 to 30 hand-picked locals from the Montagnard, or people from the mountain, and members of the South Vietnamese army who were trained to fight unconventional warfare.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I guess this guy has a PTSD, if I'm not wrong, that basically he's like focused on only one thing and he's just perfectioning it all the time, And I heard these guys, if they get the right thing, or if you get them into the right thing, let's say for this example in the army, right, he's gonna be a ruthless warrior because he's only focused on that. Not everybody can do it. I cannot do it. Like, I get just bored of it, all the time. But there are people, I know such people also, so might be this kind of situation.
These native Vietnamese were highly loyal to their American leaders and followed them until the end. The hatchet forces were a part of MACV-SOG and were tasked with unconventional warfare, reconnaissance, sabotage, and direct action missions deep behind enemy lines. These elite units gathered intelligence, disrupted enemy operations, and carried out special missions in the challenging terrain of Southeast Asia. Their activities were highly classified and often involved working with indigenous forces. Hatchet Force's name reflected their role as a quick, precise, and lethal tool in unconventional warfare. Shriver and his men excelled at this, to the point that Radio Hanoi, a communist radio station, announced a $10,000 bounty for his head.
Oh my gosh.
During one of the many over-the-top engagements where the enemy outnumbered Mad Dog Shriver and his men, he was establishing radio contact for air support when one of the operators asked him if he required an exfil, to which Shriver replied, quote, No, I've got them right where I want them, surrounded from the inside.
Listen, this is the hunter's mindset, man. You are not, I'm not here with you guys, you are here with me. And I'm gonna hunt you down, and I don't care how much. This guy was savage, man, savage.
Although Mad Dog Shriver was the loner, he was extremely fond of his trusty Montagnards. They were fiercely independent tribesmen who lived in the Vietnamese highlands and despised the communists. They were courageous in combat and had a unique ability to track anything that moved in the jungle. The men loved Shriver, and they rewarded him with their loyalty. In return, he spent most of his money on his men and their families. Food, clothing, and other donations were part of Shriver's constant flow of supplies to the mountain people. The Mad Dog spent most of his time with his Montagnards. He lived, ate, and slept inside their barracks. Besides his men, Shriver also had another friend, a large German shepherd named Klaus, whom he adopted in Taiwan. Shriver loved Klaus so much that upon learning of a cruel prank some NCOs played on his dog, force-feeding him with beer, Shriver walked into the NCO club with his .38 revolver and threatened the men. Not a single man dared to step forward and claim responsibility.
Man, if this kind of guy would go against me, and I would shit my pants, man. I would call police and I would run because I don't want to mess with these kind of savages. Dangerous, man.
After 3 years of continuous combat patrols, war began to take a toll on Mad Dog Shriver. He wanted to quit, but did not wish to leave his men and their families to their fate. Shriver felt danger was around the corner, but kept going forward. During the morning of April 24th, 1969, a MacBSOG company prepared to raid the airfield at Quan Loi, South Vietnam, some 20 miles away from the secret lair of the Central Office of South Vietnam, the main HQ of the Communist forces. B-52 bombers had heavily pummeled the area, and it was now time for Mad Dog and his comrades to clean house. The operators were heavily armed and ready to get rid of the North Vietnamese garrison. Due to the secretive nature of the mission, Shriver and the rest of the MacBSOG operators were on their own. There was no air support, unless it was essential. Before boarding the chopper with his Montagnards, Shriver turned to one of his friends and said, quote, "Take care of my boy." He felt it was the last time he would see Klaus. One of the Hueys failed and had to turn back, leaving Shriver's 1st and 2nd platoons without valuable ground support. As soon as the men landed, they were immediately pinned down by several concealed machine gun nests. Mad Dog estimated his platoon was surrounded by 6 enemy platoons hidden in the bunkers.
Wow.
It was up to Mad Dog and his Montagnards to relieve the pinned down men. He radioed the team that he would try to flank the machine gun positions, and immediately got to work. The fearless warrior inspired his loyal mountain men and charged toward the enemy emplacement. They began dashing through a hail of enemy bullets and grenades. Armed with an Uzi SMG, Mad Dog opened fire against the enemy while on the move to protect his troops, and they did the same for him. Once they approached the tree line, Mad Dog gathered his men, smiled at them, nodded, and they all threw grenades before venturing into hostile territory to shoot down the machine gun emplacement. Mad Dog Shriver was never seen again. In the following weeks, Hanoi repeated propaganda pieces narrating how they had finally captured and terminated Shriver, but no proof was ever given. In the
Listen, they were afraid of this guy, that's for sure, because they created a bounty on his head. They wanted him dead because he was all over the place, literally all over the place, and he didn't care. He didn't care. He went to these crazy missions, and unfortunately, they took his life, you know.
Following weeks, the military sent a cleanup team to recover the fallen soldiers, but there was no sign of Shriver. He was less than 3 weeks away from finishing his 3rd tour of duty. Mad Dog was 27 years old when he was officially listed as missing in action.
Wow.
True to his spirit, the legend left behind a couple of dollars, his brave shepherd, Klaus, and his smoking jacket.